only April last year that the cash rate was 0.1%. We've gone up 4% since then with 12 rate rises, but they have decided to leave it on hold at 4.1%. Is Peter White, Managing Director of Finance Brokers Association, happy with that decision? Hi, Peter.
G'day, Deb. Yes, I'm very happy with that decision because I love it when I'm right.
Yes, we did speak before we went to air and you said, no, that's what they should be doing. And so why do you think they should have kept it on hold? Obviously, they think it's a good idea too.
Yes, I'm sure they do. And it's great to see the Reserve Bank act with what I would see as being responsible in their decisions, because one of the underlying factors to this that I've always been complaining about is they're not allowing enough time to pause and see what the impact is of past decisions. Because normally the data they're working on when they make these decisions are 2 to 3 months old. So, it's always a bit of a catch-up game to get the information, the data through to then say, well, we should do whatever it is we should do. And I think it's one of the positive things that came out was the recent figures in regards to inflation, and that had dropped significantly. And so I think that was an early sign to say, well, this is the right time to pause, see what the further impact is in the inflationary piece with the past interest rate rises. And look, it doesn't mean there won't be another rate rise. I think we've got to have a realism of that piece. I hope it doesn't happen, but it could still well be another one before the end of the year. And as then we go into next year, we'll see rates start to come back and possibly by the end of the year come back quite a fair bit.
Okay, well, I agree with you. There is a lag time on data, isn't it? Now, you've mentioned the inflation data. What other data is actually assessed by the Reserve Bank when they make their decisions on the cash rate?
So some of the other things I look at is what is the current unemployment rate and what is that movement looking like? So, if unemployment starts to go up, that's an indicator to say, well, there's not enough jobs, people aren't going to be able to afford their debts, their mortgages, therefore we need to slow things down a bit. When unemployment's really low, so everybody's got a job, everybody can afford to make their payments, so what's the problem? There's that kind of data that they look at as well. They also look at what's happening around the world to say, well, from a bank's, if you like, cost of money to lend out, if they're getting money from overseas through the bond markets, if the overseas markets are still going nuts, then maybe that has a flow-on effect back to here in Australia that says, well, unfortunately, rates still have to go up because our cost of money is a lot higher. But if we've got plenty of money sitting on deposits, it sort of balances back out in our favour.
Yeah, on the issue of unemployment rates, didn't the Deputy Governor get into a bit of trouble recently talking about the RBA's goal to get the unemployment rate up to 4.5% by the end of next year?
Yeah, I think that's right. And it's certainly not a goal that anybody should be aspiring to. So I'm looking at things that actually have an impact rather than saying we want to get it to that. That's never a good thing in my mind, but that's my view of the world. It's one of the factors that influences decisions.
The interest rate tool is a blunt tool, and as you said, it has a lag time, and then it's quite difficult to assess as well. You've got to look at a few different areas. But in terms of real people that you come into direct contact with through your work and through the members of the association, are you hearing about the impact on Australians directly? What are they doing?
Yeah, most certainly. And it's one of the things I've spoken about regularly is that we've not just got to look at the banking data as such. We've got to look at the human data. What is the impact on people? And we did quite a significant piece of research on this at the back end of last year into early this year that we released a couple of months ago. And, one of the comments made by the Reserve Bank governors was, well, people need to maybe find another job or sell a car or things like that. And so, hey, horrific, you can't be saying that. But the reality was people had already done that, because I look at measures with our ombudsman and we look at arrears rates and so say, well, as interest rates go up, are people showing financial hardship? And the reality was that figure towards the end of last year had not moved much. It's gone up a bit more recently, but that's because in the research we conducted, people had already sold assets that were a bit surplus, if you like. They're sort of living the glory times in cheap interest rate land and life changes. So They've sold cars, they've sold assets, they've taken on other jobs. They have used the cash they had in the bank, or if they had a redraw facility or an offset account, that money's all been used. That's how people have survived to date. So my concern has always been especially in the last couple of months, as rates push out further, that rubber band's already stretched and there's only one place for it, and the next place for it is it snaps.
Ping.
So having a pause right now makes a whole lot of common sense because of the human data that sits underneath this.
And of course, we've got a situation where I imagine there are still some people in the fixed rate mortgage scenario that haven't come off that yet and had to deal with the increased rates.
Yeah, so with the majority of fixed rates, they were 2-year fixed rates, and the peak was July 2 years ago. So if we look at the mathematical bell curve, if I can put it like that, we're at the top of the bell curve in July. There's a whole lot of people this month coming off fixed rates at the peak of the market, and then that curve drops off and slowly peters out. But that goes probably close to the end of this year. So we've still got 4 to 6 months of people coming off really cheap fixed rates and coming into this new interest rate environment. So those people hopefully have taken measures to plan for that, and that's what we've been recommending to our members and to brokers all around the country, is to help people to plan for that step. But there's still a lot of people to come off that.
There are indeed. Well, they've got a reprieve at the moment. We'll see what the RBA does next time. But good news at the moment, the target cash rate is remaining at 4.1%. Peter White, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks, Deb. My pleasure.
Thank you. Peter White is Managing Director of Finance Brokers Association.